So I hope everyone's able to shake off the post-lunch doldrums here a little bit. I am exceedingly pleased to introduce the next session, which will be moderated by our own Megan Stifel, and this will be a fireside chat with Director Jen Easterly and Mr. Craig Newmark of Craigslist and Craig Newmark Philanthropies. We'll be turning the stage over to them right now.
In the middle, Craig. No escaping us. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and hopefully you can hear me. I want to begin by saying thank you to Director Easterly for making the time to join us. And of course, we've been heaping praise on Craig for his support for the Ransomware Task Force and the work that we've been undertaking. But we're going to shift a little bit and really talk about cyber civil defense and how we can really focus on an ecosystem-wide ecosystem-wide effort. A few of the conversations this afternoon have, and this morning, identified and drew upon some efforts that have been put in place since the Ransomware Task Force report was launched. Someone had mentioned the ransomware vulnerability warning pilot. Now, you can't say that fast very many times, but I don't know how much of the community, to the point that was made on the earlier panel, outside of DC knows what that is. There's also the effort of pre-ransomware notification efforts. And again, I think, and as we talk about in the report, these are great resources, and we need more of the community, more of the country, and more of our partners and allies to know about these capabilities. So the first question I was going to pose is to Director Easterly to talk a little bit more about the pre-ransomware notification process and the vulnerability warning pilot.
Yeah, great to be here, in particular with Craig. So everyone's familiar, I think, with CERCIA by now, the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act. Can you hear me? No. I think your mic's not on. That.
There we go. I think it's on. Sounds like it's on.
Hello? Hello? Is it on? All right. So CERCIA, Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, which we just, it's really on. We just published the notice of public rulemaking earlier this month. Part of that legislation asked us to develop what's called a ransomware vulnerability warning pilot, or RVWP, which is marginally easier to say than ransomware vulnerability warning pilot. And essentially, you can think about ransomware warning pilot and then, as you mentioned, the pre-ransomware notification initiative, which was not part of the legislation, but both of these efforts evolved relatively at the same time. In 2023, really end of 2022, the warning pilot is focused on reducing the prevalence of ransomware by using our vulnerability scanning tools to let businesses know if they have vulnerabilities that need to be patched. And a lot of this draws from the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog that the team published in November of 2021, and that's been updated regularly. And now there's tags specifically for vulnerabilities that are being used for ransomware. And so we'll send out notifications to elements that have signed up for our cyber hygiene scanning, or if we can see them using tools like Shodan, and we'll let them know you need to patch this vulnerability, and it's got that extra urgency if it's one that's been used for ransomware. So that's the warning pilot. And since we started that, we've done that 2,049 times to all sectors. I think at this point in time, we have 7,000 entities across the country that are signed up for cyber hygiene. That number will go up, I think, precipitously in the coming year when we kick off a new program, which is called Ready, Set, Cyber, which we're piloting now. We hopefully be able to do formally by the end of the year. And that will help us automate these capabilities so that you can get this information much more rapidly. So that's the pilot. And then pre-ransomware notification initiative is essentially when we get tips. I think there's probably a lot of the researchers that are here from folks who can see malware being laid down on entities. They reach out to us. We're actually part of the Trust Circle, a couple of folks on our team. Dave Stern in particular is a real hero in this space and works with great folks in the research community to notify vulnerable entities that are in either in early stages of ransomware or early stage of impact. So it's reducing the impact and lets them know that you're going to have a bad day if you don't do X, Y, and Z. And they've done that about 2,000 times as well. So, you know, all the sectors as well. Now, we talk about in your report how ransomware keeps getting worse and worse. And I mean, I'll just tell you from the stopransomware.gov, one-stop shop, the JRTF work that we're doing, the PRNI, the RVWP, the KEV stuff. I mean, I imagine the numbers would be much, much higher, frankly, if this community had not come together over the last 3 years to try and put some of this in place. Is that a magic solution? Not at all. But I think the work, and it really is community work, it really is dependent upon folks like the researchers who we've catalyzed good relationships with, and the folks on our team who are working on this every single day, but still a huge problem, as you know.
Yes. Thank you for that. And those are great numbers. We're happy to help extol the virtues of listening when the phone rings and it's someone from the CISA network reaching out to give a warning to people so that they don't become further victimized by ransomware. Unfortunately, though, we still are in a case where there are too many ransomware incidents. And we're going to turn to Craig in just a minute, but first I'm going to ask Director Easterly another question. The question here is around we all, to the cyber civil defense point, have a role to play in cyber, particularly both preparedness, but also response. And so thinking about the constant calls from the law enforcement community to please report incidents to some part of the US government, that obligation and opportunity is really centralized in CISA. So now that the NPRM has been launched, published, I know that was a ton of work. How do you think, Director Easterly, we can leverage the Cyber Civil Defense Initiative community to help succeed in the...
I mean, that was the first formal big rule that we did. And we were very consultative about it because we wanted to ensure that we were creating something that was not putting an extra burden on companies that were already under duress. And that's why the other part of CIRCIA was the Cyber Incident Reporting Council to work with the other players across the US government on how we can best harmonize this regulation. So we did 24 listening sessions. We had a request for information where we got dozens of comments in, and we ended up with a rule that is about 460 pages, which I'm told is actually a small rule compared to many that have been done by the department. But that's been out, and we have a 60-day period to give comments. And so the first thing everybody can do is provide us comments so we can continue to churn on it and not have to wait longer than next year because we have 18 months to go through all the comments. I think, and we tried to accelerate this rule process. Congress wanted it to be a full rulemaking, but this is one of the most important things that are out there in order for us to understand the breadth and depth of the ransomware ecosystem. So we absolutely need to get this in place. And it's not because we want to name or shame or blame or stab the wounded. It's not about going after a company and damaging a reputation. It really is entirely about understanding what the threat is, rendering assistance if necessary, and then most importantly, it is being able to take that information and share it broadly with the community to prevent others from becoming a victim. So case in point with Avanti, that was a pretty serious vulnerability. We were working closely with the company. We put multiple products out. We ended up putting an emergency directive act out as we put out publicly and we're transparent around it. We had two incidents because of the Avanti technology. And, you know, frankly, using that information and what we learned and putting that into the advisory so that we could get that information out to the community, that's incredibly important. Like at the end of the day, ransomware is crime. We're not going to have all crime go away. And there's many things we can do, but we minimize it so that everybody is locking their doors and windows by taking the steps in cyber hygiene. And then we have to have that neighborhood watch, that whole community where if you see something, then you want us to know so that we can help protect the entire community. So I'm excited about it. And what you can do is comment on it, help us get it right, and so we can publish it next year.
Well, I know several of us within the Ransomware Task Force are intending to do so. So, and we wouldn't be here today without Craig's support, both for the RTF, but also for the Cyber Civil Defense Initiative. For those of you who joined us last year, Craig shared the stage with Wendy, and he spoke a bit about his priorities for the Cyber Civil Defense Initiative. So Craig, what's the deal this year?
Well, I'm trying to reflect on what's my personal deal about all this and what maybe the country could be doing about it. I grew up in the 50s and 60s. I'm very old. And my parents were telling me like how dad fought in the Pacific behind a desk. And my mom learned accounting so the accountant could pick up a rifle and go overseas. Everyone during World War II who could play a role in the fight played a role in the fight. And that inspires me for now, because in World War II, the fight was largely overseas. In this phase of cyber warfare, a lot of the fight is over here. The theater of operations includes possible munitions like our coffee makers or our cars, because they're all interconnected gadgets. So I'm trying to figure out in some reasonable way, what can we ask of regular people so that we can help defend each other? Things like getting a password manager, accepting passkeys when offered, using single sign-on. When your system asks to be updated, update the system. And for that matter, when you go to buy a device, for your home or your garage, well, something you want there, if you're going to bring a device into your home, you want them ideally to have designed in security from the very beginning. The deal is that we want them to secure our world. We want that secure by design. And I want civilians to be asking the manufacturers, hey, what have you done to make sure this internet gadget that we're bringing into our home or our garage is going to be safe for us? And nutrition labels are part of that, but they're coming a little later. The deal is that regular people need to ask manufacturers, hey, how are you keeping things protected? Now, what that's going to mean is that when regular people are asking the IT and software development staffs of manufacturers, that's going to cause some resentment. Frankly, it's going to piss some people off. And I'm going to ask civilians that if you're in that situation, blame me. That's okay. I'm used to pissing people off. And I wish that was a joke. But similarly, when also regular people need to ask local government in different forms, particularly your utility commissions, hey, what are you doing to keep our water supplies, our electrical supplies, transportation? What are you doing to keep that safe? Is that world adequately secured? And similarly, when regular people ask IT specialists, software developers, they're going to resent it. They're going to take it as a challenge. It's going to piss them off. But again, if that happens, blame me. I don't mind being an asshole if it serves the country. And many of my people in my past might tell me that I've done that without actually protecting the country. But these are the things that I'm trying to do right now. The idea is that we want everyone to play some role in protecting the country as much as they can. We can all practice better cyber hygiene, and what that means is improving. And then we could all encourage in a respectful and serious way the people who can protect us. We let them know that it's a hard job. We're giving overworked people more to do. Your plan B, of course, is to blame me. But the idea is that I think we all can all work together like we did in World War II and beyond. There's going to be a lot more volunteering. That's the Cyber Civil Defense Network stuff. But for a lot of us, we do what we can. Me, you know, it's like I'm not the nerd you want, but I'm the nerd you got.
We remain very grateful for your, what is the chemist?
Dysfunction?
Nerd.
Lack of social skills?
No. So Craig mentioned Secure Our World, which the agency launched last fall. Thank you. A few of us in the room here were part of that launch of Secure Our World.
I'll invoice you.
Bill Reitinger from GCA is here. MasterCard, I know, is in the room as well. So Director Easterly, I know between Secure Our World and Secure by Design, obviously these things go hand in hand, and I'm hoping you can share with us a bit about the next direction for Secure Our World.
Yeah, super excited. So we launched it last year, as you said, many folks were there. Big campaign that was authorized, and we got money from the Congress on it. If you go to the website, it's got tip sheets and animation. It's focused on individuals and families, small businesses, and also technology manufacturers. And I'll get more to Secure by Design in a bit. But when we were first thinking about this campaign and how to make an impact, I said, I've had this thing for about 5 years now that I've always wanted to do cyber schoolhouse rock, because of course I grew up with Schoolhouse Rock. How many people remember Schoolhouse Rock, right? I'm just a billion, I'm only, so it's like, in the preamble and all of that. So I've always wanted to do this. And so I said, we've got to do something like this. And so we finally were able to come up with a Cyber Schoolhouse Rock version that we're going to launch. I know you're excited about it. That we're going to launch at RSA. There's a 3-minute extended pop version that we're actually going to play with musical instruments. And then there's a cool cartoon that Craig is going to help us get amplified, and that we would love ISTs. But as you said, it's just 4 basic things that prevents 98% of cyber attacks. We have to make cyber hygiene as common as brushing your teeth and washing your hands. And it's, 4 very basic things to secure our world, right? Can you see it? Can you see it? You can.
Schoolhouse Rock was about
Right.
20 years after my
No,
time.
but this generation, it's like nostalgia. You know what I'm talking about.
I do know it will be
Right.
really appealing to
You're
a
gonna
lot of
love it.
people. I can't wait.
I know. See?
Especially the Taylor's version.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to,
Exactly.
I'm looking
Exactly.
forward to that version.
No, it's good. Install your updates, make better passwords, think before you click, and use multiple factors. Right?
20 years after my time.
Yeah, I'm teasing it, but that's going to be awesome. And we're going to be looking for everybody to help get the cartoon out on
Oh.
Secure by Design.
It's awesome already.
It's awesome. So I showed Craig a teaser. I was so excited about it. I was like, Craig, he's like, where are the pigeons? Anyway, Secure
We'll
by
explain
Design.
that later.
I was telling Megan that, there's a lot about villains. There's a lot about victims. We do not talk enough about vendors. And this is my challenge to IST. There is about 1 line in that report on Secure by Design. And to me, that is the way we fix this problem ultimately. We all have individual responsibility. Community has individual responsibility. The government has individual responsibility, but the way we are going to actually drive down the number of attacks and the number of successful attacks is if we go upstream and ensure that technology that is deployed and delivered is in fact prioritized to be secure, not features, not speed to market, not driving down costs, but secure. That's why we're in this issue, and that's why we've done this huge campaign. It's actually a year today, our Secure by Design campaign. One of the things that I would highlight is we're doing this series of alerts for technology manufacturers. And we're really pointing out some very basic vulnerabilities that should be fixed before they're delivered. So for example, SQL injection. I think your report talks about the MoveIt vulnerability that caused a lot of ransomware. That's a very basic vulnerability that was solved 20 years ago. Same with path traversal. We're about to put out a Secure by Design alert that's ConnectWise that we know just had a big impact in the ransomware ecosystem. So that's incredibly important. One last thing that I'd say as I read your very good report is I think we should get away from using words like 0 day. I'm going to throw out something provocative. A lot about 0 days in there. We talk about 0 days like they're an act of God or an act of nature, right? They can't be prevented. The 0 days got me. At the end of the day, there are some very sophisticated techniques that are used, but the vast majority of the ways that vulnerabilities get exploited are because of known public defects. And we need to start talking in a language that's less about, well, the victim or why did it happen, and more about why was this product delivered with these common vulnerabilities that were solved many years ago. So I just think as you all think about the next steps in the task force, which has made such an impact, we should think more about the vendors and then also about how we talk about these things. Because I worry that the 0 day people hear that and they're like, the only thing we can do is clean up on aisle 9. And I don't think that that's accurate.
Couldn't agree more. And we look forward to working on Secure by Design. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but I think about, and a few of you have heard me quip, and Craig made reference to Taylor Swift. So, and actually, I think when I was with you all last year, I was talking a bit about this at the Zero Summit. Right now, we're in a position of death by 1,000 cuts. So how do we get ourselves out of this? And we couldn't agree more that it is a twofold, right? The actions, many of the actions we've been talking about today are holding actions because we need to get to a marketplace that's dominated by Secure by Design. However, we are not there yet. And so we are, along with you, looking forward to the launch of Secure by Design, Secure Our World next phase. In the interim, we thought we would honor Craig's self-ageism comments, and work to raise awareness around ransomware and harken back to themes from World War II. So we have a little bit of a gift for you, Craig. And we hope that it will help us reach more audiences. So if you to Director Easterly's very important point, prepare, don't pay. Prepare can also and certainly should be prepare by designing securely. And so we look forward to the next phase of this effort.
But very nice likeness of you.
Thank you, Craig, for all that you've done.
It is hair.
For the Cyber Defense Initiative, there are stickers which we will you may take, and Craig, if this will go home with you on the train, you're welcome to keep it. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.